You're officially live.
You're live.
Okay. Oh, hello. I didn't see you there. That is forever. Digital forever, Bob.
So Chad, since it's just you and me, I'm going to share some secrets with you. Nobody will hear this.
There's a Hannah Ferguson and Yamada watching.
That Marvin Yamada,
Yeah.
he needs some work.
Start in just a few minutes. There's just so many people in the crowd here. We're trying to get everybody situated. Wait. Ran out of chairs.
Remember earlier today when I said like senior leaders really need to mind their words and things like that?
Like words have weight.
I don't feel like I'm following my directions.
Good mentorship.
So you have Capristo and Daniel Osborne on here as well now. And yeah, Lamonis is on here. Wyatt.
Ooh,
Capristo
Jim
and Yamada.
dialed in. Nice. There's the gaggle.
Oh, they're on their way. How are you?
Found your hiding spot.
Oh, good.
I'm here.
No.
Okay.
Yep.
There she is.
No, everybody.
Okay.
I should have a handshake for everybody in the. Have you seen like teachers who have
Yeah.
a special handshake for all?
Oh, the gym was.
It's pretty amazing. I don't know how she wrote every single kid.
Oh yeah, it's pretty cool.
They're all like big time.
Dedication. Matt, why are you wearing this? Why are you wearing this?
Yeah.
Actually, nice with like suit on. Listen. And that's the world.
Come on in.
Found the right, you're in the right spot. Gibby? Don't care.
Joseph Carey. Alex Brown. Shoemaker. Markin.
I thought it was great.
Markin, Shoemaker, Brode.
Creepy.
Do that again, Brian, with the camera.
Thank you.
Alright guys, let's get started. So last time we did this, for those of you who were here, I spoke for 1 hour and 40 minutes. So this time we're gonna try to break that record. We're gonna do this in an hour or less. I want to do this every month, and I want to make it something that people want to come to, and it's not long drawn out. We have some fun, we talk about some good information, and then we move on and get into the weekend, all right? Before we get into any of the official things we want to do today, I would like to introduce a gentleman by the name of Gilberto Maldonado. He says it much better than I do. Goes by Gil, but he is our Director of Public Health. So I want to give him just a few minutes and talk about who he is and what he is going to do here. I have already used Gil a couple times, and he's only been on the job for a couple weeks now. So I feel like he is a much needed individual in our unit, and we're glad to have him. So Gil, if you want to come up and introduce yourself?
Good afternoon, everyone. Colonel said, I am Gilberto Maldonado. A little bit better. And I am the new DPHer. I believe, well, it's my understanding that it's a new position. There was never a DPH here before. The DPH over from the 194 would come and cover down, and I just want to share a little bit about what services I'm going to be able to provide and some of the resources that I'm going to be able to help connect you guys with. So first of all, I'm a retired Sergeant First Class from the Army. I retired in 2015. My job in the Army was air defense artillery. So I was SHORAD, short range air defense, Stinger missiles. I was on a Bradley linebacker, things like that. While I was in the Army, while I was in active duty, I finished my undergraduate degree. I finished a master's degree in social work, and I specialized in drug and alcohol counseling. And so I've worked at residential treatment centers. I've worked in outpatient mental health clinics, and my last job before I came here, I was the program manager for behavioral health services in Thurston County for a community health center. And so there we did outpatient mental health services, psychiatric services, child and family, school-based services, and outpatient substance abuse services. I am a licensed independent clinical social worker. I'm also a chemical dependency professional in the state of Washington. And I've been here for 2 weeks. And I'm very excited. I'm glad to be back and to be a resource for military folks and our families. There's a huge stigma. And I remember when I was separating from the Army, there was a lot of snickering, and there was still a lot of things going on about mental health and anxiety, and that was when the resiliency courses and the Master Resiliency program was starting to come around. And I'm just here to let you guys know that you don't need to have a chronic mental health condition. You know, you don't have to be schizophrenic or bipolar to kind of hit a bump on the road. I've hit bumps on the road. We all hit bumps on the road. The services that I'm going to provide here, I want you guys to know, are strictly confidential. You cannot be command referred to me. If there is a command referral that needs to go out, I can work with the commanders, and I can work with you guys to try and figure out what the best route is to connect you with the services that you need. When you come and you meet with me, we don't have to meet in my office. You know, we can get up and go for a walk, and we can figure things out. You guys are experts in your life. And so if I don't have the answer, then we can figure it out together. You know, what's best for you. I can provide, you know, some techniques to help you guys come over, you know, get over some anxious moments, or, you know, talk to you about the difference between depression and just having a bad day, which we're all allowed to have bad days. Don't be afraid to come see me. Please, I'm going to walk around. I'm going to make myself available. I'm very accessible to you guys. And more than anything, I want to be sure that that you know that I'm here for you. You know, whatever you may need. I don't have email yet. I'm hoping to have email. I was told Monday morning, maybe. My email will be up. But I'm up at P level, P08. Please stop by, say hello. When the boat, is it the bogey dope?
You got it.
Is that what it's called? Yeah. So when that opens, I'd love to buy you guys a cup of coffee and just sit down and see what's going on. All right. So if you guys don't have any questions, I'll see you guys around. Thank you, sir.
All right. So guys, just like he said, there's no command referral process for me to send somebody who's struggling with some things to Gil. Okay, Okay, so Gil is, he's not a boogeyman or anybody should be worried about talking to, okay? There's no blemish on your career. There's no stigma attaching on and talking to Gil. And part of that's going to be the culture that we create. Like, if you see somebody go talk to Gil, we cannot be assuming that that individual is, struggling with somebody or their supervisor sent him there. Gil's part of our unit. He's there to help us. So in the past, it's been blue suiters trying to do the best we can to help other blue suiters, right? And now we've got a trained expert in the building. And so if somebody's saying, hey, I need to talk about some stuff and really work out some things, it's like, hey, I got the guy that you need to talk to, Gil, up on P level. So let's create a culture where we aren't afraid to ask for some help and send people to get some help, all right, right here in the building. So thank you, Gil, for being a part of the unit. All right, can you guys hear me all right in Facebook land? And there's going to be a delay, so we'll give them a few minutes to answer. I'll speak up anyway. Okay, so we're going to do a couple presentos before we get into the meat and potatoes of what we're going to do here, all right? So Lieutenant Chesley, if you come on up, please.
Now, Captain.
Now, Captain, I'm sorry. It's so long. It reads Lieutenant because it's been so long since we got this medal and now we're presenting it to her. So it's going to read Lieutenant Chesley, but as you can see, Captain Chesley. All right.
Attention to orders. The Air Force Commendation Medal has been awarded to First Lieutenant Angela M. Chesley for meritorious service from 13 May 2012 to 13 May 2015. First Lieutenant Angela M. Chesley distinguished herself by meritorious service while assigned to the 225th Air Defense Squadron, Washington Air National Guard, Joint Base Lewis McChord, Washington. During this period, Lieutenant Chesley excelled as a combat mission ready air battle manager. After completing over 1 year of intense training, she controlled and directed 144 alert aircraft in support of Operation Noble Eagle. Lieutenant Chesley managed the enforcement of 12 temporary flight restriction areas, securing national airspace above the President of the United States. Lieutenant Chesley also led the unit in strengthening joint and multi-service capabilities during Exercise Gunfighter Flag, in which she controlled 4 dynamic missions consisting of 36 aircraft from multiple services, thereby demonstrating her superior controlling skills and exemplary performance. Epitomizing service before self, Lieutenant Chesley engaged in numerous additional duty roles, including Unit Voter Assistance Program Officer, Officer in charge of the Western Air Defense Sector Honor Guard, and Unit Lead for the State Awards Banquet, raising over $2,000 and garnered acclaim from the Assistant Adjutant General for Air. Lieutenant Chesley's altruistic efforts culminated in establishing the unit's 9/11 Memorial Dedication Ceremony, securing rare historical artifacts, and coordinated the attendance of over 150 VIPs at the dedication ceremony. The distinctive accomplishments of Lieutenant Chesley reflect great credit upon herself, the Air National Guard, and the United States Air Force.
Rick, front and center, buddy.
Good, be seated.
All right. So, once again, this isn't too delayed. December 18 to February 19, Senior NCO of the Quarter, Master Sergeant Rick Sear. If you know Rick, you know how hard this guy works. You know how smart he is, how capable he is, and what a just genuinely good guy he is. Right? So we are very blessed to have him in this unit and be a part of our team. And we just got the approval to send him off to training, and it looks like we're going to be able to do a very accelerated officer training for Rick, only about 2 or 3 weeks, I think. And he'll come back as Lieutenant Sear in just a month or so, so that's great news. So congratulations, Rick.
Thank you.
Yeah, well done. Let's take a picture here. All right. We got a certificate for you too. All right, round of applause for Rick. All right, so there's a man in this room who, when I showed up as a brand new captain back in 2004, he was here, and he had been here for a long time. He'd been here for a really long time. And he helped show me the ropes on Eagle Flight at that time. told me what to do, and more importantly, what not to do. I didn't listen to him. I did a few stupid things, and I learned my lesson real quick. But Connie, if you come up here, Conrad has been a very stabilizing force in this unit, and he continues to do so as a contractor. The work that he has done recently with the database work that we've been asking him to do, and he just does it, and he does it very well. So we wanted to recognize Connie for all the work that he's done for us recently in his capacity as a contractor, but also, you know, just a big thank you, Connie, for sharing your experience and just being such a solid force for us at the Western Air Defense Sector and the 225th Air Defense Squadron. So you came into the Air Force in 1986, so we're giving you coin number 86. So thank you for all you do. Thank you. All right, how's the volume? Did anybody speak up and say it was too low? Okay, that's because they're not paying attention. That's fine. No, okay, so some people asked some questions online. We're going to talk about the Pareto principle, the overall Pareto principle, and how we're going to crush that Pareto principle here at the Western Air Defense Sector. We're going to talk about delegation of decision making down to the command level. Per General Goldfein, Brian Colt asked that question, so we'll talk about what that looks like at the Western Air Defense Sector. We're going to talk about a ZAP board, potentially. You know, the idea that Boozy brought up, maybe instill some esprit de corps and recognize our visitors when they come on in. They can zap something in the building rather than our turnstile or our Bigfoot statue or something like that. But first I want to talk about mentorship before we get into those questions, all right? You guys know the acronym IMPACT and what that stands for. Who knows what the I stands for? Just yell it out. What's I stand for? Okay, we're about to talk about M for mentoring. What's the P stand for? Professionalism, absolutely. What's next? The A. What does the A stand for? Accountability, both good and bad, right? We want to keep people accountable for the good things they do and also the not so good things they do, right? But 100% accountability. Okay, and the C, what's that stand for? Courage. Courage, absolutely. Good memory. And then the T, teamwork. All right, so today, and what we're going to do is each commander's call, we're going to talk about one of those elements. So we can really not just put them up on a slide and say, oh, these are our values. This is what we value as an organization. But really talk about them and what does that look like at the 225th Air Defense Squadron. All right, so what is mentorship, guys? Anyone? What does it look like, and do we do it?
Sharing your experience and knowledge.
Okay, experience. I like that. Knowledge. I used wisdom earlier today. But yeah, experience, knowledge, wisdom. What else?
Training your replacement.
Okay. Yeah, so that's very very important for us at the Guard, because we don't get in like the active duty does, a one-for-one swap, right? Somebody leaves and then somebody comes in, maybe a little bit of top-off training, they're good to go. When people come in, we got to make sure we're capturing their potential, and then we talked about grooming was a bad word, but grooming them to move into a position down the road. So training your replacement, absolutely. What else?
Developing people around you.
Okay.
It's helping them not make the same mistakes you made.
Oh, that's good. That is so good. So we're talking a lot about what the ultimate goal of mentorship is. How do you mentor? What is that? So I think the how is probably the most difficult part of mentorship.
Be present.
Yeah. You gotta make time.
Be honest.
Right? You gotta provide you gotta be critical sometimes, right? Mentoring, when you tell somebody how great they're doing all the time, I mean, that might be one form of mentorship, but it's not gonna be very effective.
You
I was
can have-
talking, go ahead, what do
You
you
can
say?
have two forms of membership, formal and informal.
Mhm.
So formal is where you've established an actual contract between the mentor and the mentee. You've established, how often you're gonna meet, how long you're gonna meet, some of the goals and objectives that the mentee is trying to accomplish. So there's actually an outcome driven mentorship program in the formal lines. And there's that more casual, informal mentorship. As a leader, you're always a mentor. But it also includes sort of those one-on-one interviews that, hey, I would like to select you as a mentor, for example. I'd like to come and see you for a mentor. And you don't have a formal contract with specific goals or outlines, but you have a general sense of where that individual wants to go and move forward more often than not in their professional career, but also family or relationships, but more the roadmap of how you move from the place you currently are to where you want to be in the 3, 5, 10-year timeline.
And we're done. Skip just
Yeah.
Skip just did it.
Right there.
Yeah, and obviously the words of a lieutenant colonel and a commander, very insightful and absolutely true. So let's talk about the 225th ADS though, because I feel like we have had, and please, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, this is an open discussion, and I am not afraid to be told I'm wrong. Just ask Chad, because he does it all the time, and I accept his feedback. The other day in a meeting, Chad turned to me and he just goes, "You're wrong, sir. You're wrong, sir."
I said sir.
Yeah. But we talk about mentoring, and the answer sometimes is, well, it just kind of happens around here. Mentoring just happens. And my fear is, if we hold that attitude that mentoring just kind of happens, that we're going to miss it. It's not going to happen, right? And we are just, especially in this unit, sometimes we are ships in the night because of shift work, or we have relationships in the community and with our families and things like that. And having a mentor outside of this building is encouraged, right? You need to have mentors in all your facets of life. But I really want to foster mentor relationships and mentee relationships in this building, okay? Because we know what it takes to be successful in something like this. We have the wisdom and the knowledge about being air battle managers and 1 Charlie 5s. I want to be able to share that amongst each other, okay? So like Skip said, that formal mentoring, I think we're missing a little bit. And what I want to do is, and let's talk about this and whether it's a good idea, but I want to really encourage everybody to talk about mentoring and to approach somebody that they would like to be mentored by, and not be afraid, but be very empowered to say, I would like you to be my mentor. And I think you will not find anybody in this building that will say, nah, I'm going to go a different direction here. No thanks. You know? Well, maybe you will. Smack Davis, he might say that. I don't know. But no, we actually have to use the words mentoring, right? And you are my mentor, and you are my mentee. Mentee's kind of weird, I know. But let's use those words, all right? But what else about mentoring are we missing at the Air Defense Sector? Squadron, Air Defense Squadron. Go ahead.
Airman Miller, sir. One thing I've noticed being through student flight and now training, I've not had a lot of outreach from anyone, really. From my trainers, I've had great outreach, but it's only because I already had a spouse in the building that I felt I was successful through BMT and tech school. And I was wondering if we could maybe formalize something a little bit more for our people who haven't been to BMT, who haven't been to tech school, or even if they have, and just sort of start that relationship a lot sooner.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're absolutely right. That's like one of the most vulnerable periods in an airman's career, right? Just getting to a unit, not quite sure where they fit in, what they're supposed to be doing. How awesome would it be if we started off the first few hours of that airman's career, at least within our walls, by mentoring from the very beginning, right? And not just giving them a checklist and saying, hey, go run this checklist somewhere. Okay, so for me, I think what's missing is the relationships, the very personal one-on-one relationships between people. We'll do PME, and we'll do big groups like this, and we'll call it mentoring, or we'll share some knowledge along the way, and we'll call that mentoring. But I think what my personal opinion is mentoring, a form of mentoring, because there's many different ways to do this. But for me, mentoring looks like somebody with experience, wisdom, and knowledge sitting down and fostering a personal relationship with somebody with less experience, wisdom, and knowledge. Okay, and that means taking time, making time, like Rick said, actually scheduling something, having an agenda to talk about. So that's going to take you guys to do this, right? And it's not just the blue suit force I'm talking about either, or the people with Canadian uniforms on. Do you guys call yourself blue suiters? What do you, green pink suiters? No? Yeah, they call themselves military members. Yeah. But not just the people in uniform, but also the civilians and the contractors in our midst as well. I mean, Ryan McCray needs a whole lot of mentoring. Somebody please give it to him. Look at that beard though, it's fantastic. But I want to see people sitting down and talking about the hard stuff. You know, hard things are hard. I mentioned that the other day. Don't avoid the hard things. Don't avoid the hard conversations. When people are having problems in their career, instead of letting them flounder, that's when a mentor steps in. Not necessarily, you know, we've talked about you don't want the supervisor to be the mentor. Ideally, no, you don't. Because it sure would be nice if the supervisor's having to deal with all of the disciplinary stuff that might crop up, but the mentor has nothing to do with that. They can give a very unbiased opinion. They can speak from a position of not being scary to the member, you know? Because if somebody's gonna write your LOC or your LOR, maybe you're not as comfortable confiding in them some things. All right, so I wanna see those relationships. So a couple do outside of this mentor conversation that I ask of you guys is start fostering those mentor and mentee relationships and actually have those conversations and sit down and say, I'd like you to mentor me, or I would like to mentor you. It sounds weird, I know. Walking up to someone and like, I'm going to be your mentor. No, you're not. That actually has more potential than somebody saying, I don't want to be, you know, your mentor. But I think the relationship the other way of the mentee going to the mentor and asking to mentor is probably a more comfortable, safe bet, right? What do you guys think about any of that? Chad?
Yeah, I think you're right in that a mentee approaching a mentor, it's going to be somebody that they already trust, that there's potentially already a relationship with. And if somebody does approach you, don't blow that off. That's a big step.
It's one of the more important things that we can do in this building. It really is. I mean, that's leadership. You know, we all talk about becoming leaders and fostering our leadership skills. That's the ultimate end goal, right? Is to be the best leader possible when we're wearing this uniform. If you're not actively mentoring someone, you're missing a huge part of your leadership tool bag. Okay?
So we just reinvigorated our mentorship program in our AEC community. We tried it before, it didn't get any buy-in. One of the problems is people don't know how to be a mentor, nor do they know how to be a mentee, or how do you actually start it. So I do have some documentation I can provide. We can post on the SharePoint that says, hey, what does it mean to be a mentor? What does it mean to be a mentee? And it gives some starting points for discussion. And we've kept ours informal, as we found on our enlisted side. We try to formalize it, and it was an epic failure. So that's a good thing to do. For an airman joining the unit, it's more a sponsorship program versus a mentorship program, which will perhaps build into a mentorship thing. But certainly, I think having a sponsor showing up to unit who that person can automatically call, because that's my sponsor, to answer those questions that are kind of vague, or I wish I had a sponsor, honestly.
Yeah.
Or me showing up here like that.
Our sponsorship program has kind of floundered a little bit because there were a few different changes. Right? It used to be on the squadrons, and then it became an MP program, then it went back to the squadrons, and I think we've lost it a little bit along the way. So that's definitely something that's on my radar scope that I'll figure out why our sponsorship program isn't quite where it needs to be. But I think you're right. Mentoring takes a little bit of trust, and it's hard to even have that trust when an airman first shows up to the unit, right? So yeah, I think you're right. It starts out as a sponsorship program, and that might blossom into a failed epically for years. And not failed, all right, that's harsh. I'm sorry. I take it back. I think we can do so much better. And for many years, we haven't paid a lot of attention to actually making sure we're mentoring. There was an IG inspection years ago that Lex Luthor did, and think what you will about Lex Luthor. If you're out there in Facebook land, Lex, that'd be weird because you're not a member of the group. But it was spot on that we were not adhering to any sort of AFI regarding mentoring. It was just kind of happening. That was the opinion, right? Mentoring is happening in this unit. Of course it is. Why wouldn't it be? Look at everybody. They are so mentored. And yet we'd get climate surveys back and it would say, there's no mentoring program in this organization. Nobody communicates with me about what it will take to be successful in this organization. So we were getting two very different messages on what it is that, were we good at mentoring or we were the worst at mentoring ever? The truth is probably somewhere in the middle. But yeah, so that's why it's part of our impact statement, our values, why mentoring is the number 2, and why it's pretty important to me, and why we're gonna really focus on mentoring over my tenure as the commander. So any questions from Facebook land, get them in there about mentoring or any comments. Bobby will read them out.
We're up to 21 on Facebook Live out there, so.
Oh, we're killing it. We are the hottest ticket in Facebook Live around. Boozy, what are your thoughts, man? You can be honest, you're walking out the door. You don't have to worry about it.
I mean, I think it's a lot on the mentee, like coming from the unit that I'm going back to. Yeah, crap. They have nothing, everything here at WADS is on a silver platter. We got senior NCOs I've been mentored by a lot. It's on the individual to want to get mentored, and want to get better in their career and whatnot. Over here, you got SharePoint things, you got documents listed all over the place. You got documents how to show you how to do correct DTS authorizations and vouchers. Still managed to screw that up, but that's an opportunity to mentor someone.
It is. Oh, the opportunities.
There's all kinds of ways you can do it. To me, everything, for me anyway, everything is on me. If I want to get better, I'm going to seek it.
Yeah, it seems like a personal credo for you though.
Yeah.
Everybody's different, and so SMAC actually had a question on his FedRec board yesterday, and it was all about mentoring. And for me, I said, well, SMAC, how did you answer? And he said, I answered this way, and that might not have been the right answer. And I said, well, it depends. I think what mentoring looks like is different for everybody. You've got to figure out where to meet the person you're mentoring. And some people respond well to just being given a task or something to go learn and going off and messing it up royally and then coming back and getting feedback about it. Other people need to be walked through step by step, and you need to be with them as they go through the process, So I think you're talking about more like the former, where it's like, Boozy, go do this thing, and you're like, I'll figure it out. And other people aren't comfortable with that. So mentors have a lot of homework to do to figure out how to actually mentor the individual that they're working with. Right? There's no set formula. And it's because we're all human beings in this room. We're all different. Okay? There's not a single one of you who is exactly like the other one. And that's why leadership and mentoring is probably the toughest thing you'll do in your Air Force career, because you're dealing with people. And you'll do it well if you take the time to figure out what that person needs and meeting that person where they're at, and not forcing them to come to where you're at. I'm not talking physically, but I'm just saying in their stage of life, right? Meet them where they're at. We need to mentor. We talked about tasks earlier, PD, and training your replacement and things like that. I think mentors also dive into things outside of the technical aspects, because since we are people, we got to talk about the holistic person, right? So if somebody's struggling at work, they don't necessarily just need more training. Maybe something at home is gone completely awry, and you need to meet them there and mentor them maybe on some home life stuff. I don't know if anybody remembered, but Colonel Kruger at his retirement talked about a young officer who came into his office and in 2008, no, General Groover talked about Colonel Kruger, in 2008 and broke down in tears because his wife was leaving him. That was me. I was the guy in 2008 whose wife was leaving him. And Freddie, you know, I said the other day I've never been mentored before. I take that back. Because Freddie sat down with me and we talked for an hour about what it means to be a husband, what it means to be a divorcee, if that was the route we were going down, what my options were to try to save my relationship. Had nothing to do with work whatsoever. But I honestly believe that moment in 2008 probably changed my career. Because if my wife and I had gotten divorced, my career probably would have gone in a totally different direction, right? And in that moment, in that conversation, you know, I decided that I was going to try to save my marriage, and me and Hillary just celebrated.
Don't do it.
18 years. You know, so mentoring is so many different things, and that's our task as leaders and officers and NCOs, to figure out how to mentor, right?
I think it's absolutely important though to formalize it and ask the person, because I don't think I've ever asked anybody, even though I feel kind of like with Boozy, I feel like I've gotten mentorship but not in a formal way. And nobody's really asked me either, and I don't think we've invigorated that type of atmosphere. And if we did, if someone came to me and said, I want you to be my mentor, I'd be held accountable to do that. And we could actually measure how well you're being mentored if there's accountability there, which circles back to the A in impact.
That's right.
There was a survey about 4 years ago, and it asked, are you mentoring anybody, and are you a mentee? And 2 people said, yes, I'm mentoring, and a dozen people said, yes, I'm being mentored. And it wasn't just those 2 people. So a lot of people were mentoring without realizing that they were doing the job, and that's that informalness. And I'd also say a mentor doesn't necessarily need to outrank you, need to be older than you. They might have wisdom and experience that you don't have. I learned a lot from working with Chad and with Boozy. They had a whole different set of skills that I lack, and just being in the same office with them, I picked up a lot of great stuff. So look for those opportunities.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Mentoring is not about teaching somebody how to achieve the next rank or anything like that. There are books for that. There are checklists that you can check off to achieve the next rank, right? Mentoring's all about the why, you know, and the how. The how's easy. That's, like I said, that's a checklist. It's the why and the what. You know, that's what mentors need to talk about. And so I think more importantly, when you look for a mentor, you do look for that knowledge and wisdom and experience rather than a higher rank or somebody in the same career field as you or whatever. Somebody you look up to and respect and can talk to easily. Go ahead.
So I just had a thought, from the portal, there's the My Vector, which could be a good avenue for, kind of like you're saying, with different people, different personalities or desires, to either find someone to mentor or find someone to mentor them. Like you can fill, for those who don't know, you can go in there and basically volunteer to be a mentor or a mentee and write, whether it's officer enlisted, different life experiences, what you want mentoring about specifically, and that could be a good avenue for people as well to find some of that specifically within the unit if everyone signs up and is active on it.
Yeah, did you just come from active duty?
No, sir. No.
Yeah, you were guard?
Yeah,
And you
yeah.
had access to it?
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's my past unit. There were a couple. That's how I found the guy who I was. We would informally meet up, but I wanted some kind of specific mentoring about some things, and it worked pretty well, really well, I think, from just my point of view.
I've heard of My Vector. I have yet to use it, obviously. So yeah, maybe we'll look into those tools and make those available to our people. Yeah. What else? Anything else? No? What do you think?
I think mentoring is good.
Yeah.
I personally have mentored that school-wise.
Yeah.
And year and a half now. And I think, I mean, coming from a different career field, it's definitely different. And people more open to it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we've got to be. You know, we're in this building together with each other for so long that we have the luxury of creating those relationships. I've got people in this building, a few people in this audience who I've worked with over a decade, you know, and more. So if we don't have those relationships where we can sit down and have honest conversations about anything, and I really think mentors need to look at all topics are on the table, right? You're helping guide this person through their career, through life. It all depends on the contracts you guys set up as a mentor and mentee, but those, all topics are on the table. So yeah, we have that luxury. So I'd like to see us, so the do-outs again, I'd like everybody in this room and everybody in Facebook land to put some serious thought in who would be a good mentor for you. And maybe you already have one, so this doesn't apply to you. But if right now you're struggling to identify who a mentor is, and I'm one of those people, because I identified the other day, I don't know a mentor. Well, maybe I need to go find one. You know, we all need a mentor. So identify that person and go have a conversation with them. You know, and say, a mentorship was the topic of the commander's call. It's a perfect door opener, right? Because you can say, the commander told me I need to go find a mentor. And so here we are, you're my mentor, you know? And, but it's an easy way to make it less awkward, I guess. And say, you know, will you mentor me? And then for those who are gonna be asked to be their mentor, don't even hesitate to say yes, please, okay? That's what you get paid to do. You are a leader, so part of your paycheck goes to being a mentor. All right? Any questions coming in from Facebook land?
Marvin, you might have liked your story that you shared.
Thank you, Marvin. It's very nice of you. Yeah. All right. So let's move. Unless anybody has any comments or questions, we'll move on to a couple topics because we've already talked about 37 minutes now. I promise I'll keep this under an hour. Okay. So Angie Chesley writes, Sir, thank you, very respectful in Facebook land. Could you speak more about the Pareto principle and what your vision is with it in regard to the squadron? Absolutely, Angie, I would love to. Okay, so what is the Pareto principle first? The 80-20 rule. A lot of people refer to it as the 80-20 rule. 80% of X causes 20% of X. No, that's backwards. 20% of X does 80% of X. It's usually has to do with discipline or the amount of work people do. Like 20% of the people cause 80% of your problems, or 20% of the people do 80% of the work. That's the Pareto principle. And it is a natural, when everything devolves and there's no mechanisms in place to control this, things naturally devolve, this was Pareto's theory, into that 20-80 rule. Okay, that 20% of X does 80% of Y. I want to crush that at the Western Air Defense Sector because I don't want 20% of the people doing 80% of the work. I want 100% of the people doing 150% of the work. Does that math not add up? No, and the reason I say 150% of the work is because I want to be able to take on everything that comes our way. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not afraid to say no when you guys tell me you're overworked. But I really feel like we haven't tapped our full potential. I really feel like there's some people in this organization that feel forgotten, left behind, not tasked enough. And I want to identify those people, and then I want to funnel things to them. I want to funnel tasks, projects, you name it, to those individuals. So the only way we can do that is by actually keeping track of who's doing what, right? And I'm not talking about an additional duty tracker that's completely static, and you're named like you're the garbage monitor, and we're gonna write on our Excel spreadsheet, garbage monitor, good, you did it. What I want to do is make it a very living document, and a mechanism where we have a real-time snapshot of what all of our people are doing. So on our Kanban board, which everybody in here should be familiar with Kanban, hopefully everybody has gotten an account and is participating by going in there and at least looking at our Kanban board. There's another spreadsheet that is out there that you may not even know about, but it's called enlisted Pareto principle, and there's an officer Pareto principle. Okay, there's a lot of sneezing going on back there. Whole lot of sneezing. Must be dusty. And so it's not going to be all right. The person who cares most about your career, who is that person?
You.
It's your mentor. It's the mentor that we just identified that you don't have. It is you. It is absolutely you, and it always should be. Okay. You need to actively be involved in the management of your career. Okay, because and here's why. Your supervisor's going to do their darndest, and they're going to look out for you. I promise you, the people at the Western Air Defense Sector are fantastic, but they might supervise 2 other people. And oh, by the way, they got a wife and kid at home that they've got to be responsive to, and so we get spread a little thin when it comes to the people we supervise. That's not an excuse for them not to do it properly at all. But you need to be recognized as a member who's in uniform, that you need to help manage your career, right? So that means we're going to make this enlisted Pareto principle and officer Pareto principle open to everybody. And everything that you are doing in this organization, I want you to go in there and put it under your name. And I want a list. And every time that changes, I want you to go in there and add it to the list, right? And that way, we can have a rising tide that lifts all boats. So as one column is getting along here, I go, man, that person's doing a lot. The next thing that comes along, we're not going to give it to them because they're already doing a lot. We're going to give it to this person over here who maybe hasn't filled it out as much, right? We give it to that person and they go, I'm so busy, I can't do one more thing. And we go, well, wait a minute. Like, what are you busy on? And that's where your supervisor steps in and helps prioritize and manage your tasks, right? And says, well, what are you so busy on? And they say, well, I'm doing 10 things. And we're like, well, you're only tracking about 3 or 4 of those things. So that's why we just gave this to you. So let's figure this out and assign it somewhere else. But I feel like we've been doing that ad hoc, just kind of catch as catch can. And what's happened is we've loaded up a whole bunch of people. We've forgotten a whole bunch of people in the organization. And we are probably closer to the Pareto principle than we would like to be. Yeah. You got something, Reimer?
I feel like that's tough.
Yeah,
I
it
feel
is
like
tough.
people at different capacities of the amount of work they can actually accomplish or feel comfortable doing. And some people just naturally take on more and more and more and more. People tend to be highly effective or higher function. Have the ability to do that. And others feel overwhelmed. They don't know what the truth of the matter is of what they can actually do. A lot of that comes down to self-actualization, like what people can believe they can actually accomplish, what it should look like. Time management, stress management, things like that. It just seems tough.
I don't disagree. And there's no foul if your list is shorter than anybody else's. Again, we're going to have to change the culture, right? It's just a matter of we got to track it so we know who has the larger capacity, who doesn't have as much capacity. And we can also use it as a tool that, all right, say in a world where this person who has done this many things gets promoted, right? And this individual can look at that and go, well, that's kind of the level of what needs to get done in order to be competitive for a promotion. And that's one aspect that goes into promotions. We're actually going to talk about that here in a moment. But it's going to take active management. It's going to take personal relationships. It's going to take supervisors knowing what the capacity of their people are. But yeah, it is definitely not going to be a litmus test on who's doing great things in the organization and who's not.
Personally, I love it. I wish my civilian employer would adopt this. I don't think that would ever happen in a million years. I would push it so hard. And
Yeah.
I kind of like that. It is interesting.
I just the white ponies, and we gotta get away from the white ponies that we ride and beat until they fall over dead, right? And meanwhile, we've got, and I don't know. Actually, I'm gonna stop this metaphor because I'm comparing people to horses, and that's not cool. We gotta get away from the person who's just left to languish and feel like they've been abandoned by the unit, right? So that's what we're doing there. Did I answer your question about the Pareto principle? Okay, so we had to recreate the enlisted Pareto principle because it got locked out, but Roberts will be sending out invites for that shortly, and with ROE about going in and managing the tasks that you're doing. Okay.
Sir, I guess from a shop chief perspective, like, does that mean that, like, tasks are gonna go direct to individuals? I guess,
No, the
this would lead
taskings-
into the, like, delegation down, so if I report up for my shop, all the things we're doing, leadership can evaluate how tasked the shop is, and then I, as a chief, can prioritize and determine who internally.
Absolutely. This is not a tasking tool at all. It is just an SA tool for the members, to see what everybody in the organization is doing, and for supervisors and leadership to be able to go, this is what's taking up all of our people's time. It's also a way that we can look and go, is everything that everybody's doing in line with our priorities as a unit, in line with the flight plan? You know, and we maybe see something that somebody's doing that's taking up a whole lot of their time, and we go, oh, maybe we need to redirect that effort somewhere, you know? So I wanna have a little more essay on what we're doing as a unit and what we're doing as individuals. Okay, so no, the tasking mechanisms and all that remains the same. It is nothing more than a visualization tool for us to see who's tasked and who's not tasked at any one time. Okay? All right, we talked mentorship. All right, in one of the exit interviews I had recently, the question was asked, a statement was made that seemingly being on day staff was the key to getting promoted around here. And so for those who haven't been on day staff yet, they feel like they're not gonna have an opportunity to get promoted until they get on day staff. And I will be the first to tell you as the commander, that is not true, okay? So what needs to happen is we are going to, so what has already happened, I should say, is that the score sheets for the enlisted promotion have been revised. I went and asked the team that did that, I said, what is the weight on being day staff? And they looked at me and said, yeah, not a thing. You don't get extra points for being on day staff. Okay, so quantifiably, there's no score that you get for being on day staff. And what we kind of talked about after I asked that question was, what will get you promoted around here is leadership potential. We always promote on potential, right? Not on what you've done in the past. And so your leadership potential is what's going to get you promoted. And that technical prowess goes into that, and your potential to be a leader on the operations floor. Leadership just as an airman and a mentor, things like that, okay? So I guarantee you there's nothing about day staff on that score sheet. If in the past, the perception was that if you're day staff, you're gonna get promoted, I apologize. If that perception was given room to grow, and we need to crush that perception, right? So because being up on the ops floor and not doing day staff in my squadron is just as valued as being on day staff. What I'm gonna look at is two individuals who are members of this unit and what is their leadership potential. And then that's how we're gonna promote. And that's the instruction I'm gonna give to the hiring boards. Okay?
It's one of the things, when you're on day staff, you have more opportunities to do tasks, to demonstrate your leadership potential with planning things, with running things, with organizing things, with developing things. And it goes back to your ECO principle.
Thank you
Remember
very much.
us?
Appreciate it.
Burrito principle, that you can do, the mind in the gutter. It goes back to this, the 20% doing all the work, but someone who's on shift can accept these tasks and has the exact same ability to demonstrate their skill sets and their leadership by taking on a challenge, a task, whatever. It's just, there's probably a perception that the opportunities to get tasks are more readily available on day staff versus on shift. But I think if you reattack what we talked about previously and enable people to take on these tasks on shift, then they'll get the recognition.
I agree, and I would say in the past, we've said, all right, well, there's a tasker, we can't pick somebody on crew because they're not here half of the week. And my answer to that is baloney. And I hope you guys have noticed, but we've been tasking people on crew with special duty, and trying to stay away from just tasking the day staff. I would argue that I'm not gonna argue with you, but I would submit that sometimes being on day staff is not as glamorous as it would appear. Like for instance, in Stand Eval, they are so busy just doing boring ass evals that they don't get to do much else. And when it comes time to write their EPR, it says they did evals, right? And so it's kind of a struggle for like a shop like Stand Eval to actually fill out an EPR and OPR with all of this other flowery stuff that they've done, because they're just like head down in the weeds doing evals after evals after evals. So I would just say if you haven't been on day staff, it's important not to look at day staff as this nirvana and land of milk and honey where all the good deals happen and then it's time for promotion and we reward just the day staff. It's not the case. If it has been the case in the past, again, I can only offer an apology and tell you that the way moving forward is we are going to rise that tide and lift every single boat that is in this organization. Okay? And if you feel that's not happening, come talk to me. Sit down on my couch. I got 2 new couches. They're not new. I took them from the Bogey Dope. So if you slept on those couches, I apologize. But you will be getting new furniture in the Bogey Dope shortly. And there are beautiful cots up on the 3rd floor. Thank you to DOM. Here, on the cots. And soon to be beds. We did, sleep pods are not a thing though. Unfortunately, sleep pods aren't gonna work out.
We have a verbal authorization to purchase the bunk beds, but we're waiting on the rent, so bunk beds.
Yeah. Okay?
Are they race car bunk beds?
Yes.
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 What a lame question.
I knew, I just wanna make sure everybody else.
Okay.
Actually, they're fired.
Nice.
All right, what else about that? I wanna make sure that we dispel that thought that day staff, maybe some hiring boards, everybody that, or promotion boards, everybody that gets promoted happen to be on day staff. That is pure coincidence, okay? Especially now with the revised score sheets.
I will say that has been the perception, and that's something that I would mentor people who were on crew is do a project, a general's visit, setting up the 9/11 display case, etc. Do something that the second floor sees, because when you're just up on the ops floor, in the past, we have new leadership now, it's different, but in the past, leadership didn't visit the ops floor as much. You could grind away all day, every day, putting in all sorts of extra time, I'm seeing head nods. And what was told to me when I went for promotion board and didn't make it, and I said, I got this IG point for flawless execution, I instructed 6 people, I'm an OIC, I did the most time in grade, I did all this stuff, and I was just told, yeah, but that's the minimum we expect of you. What have you done outside of this building? What have you done to, project-wise that weren't on the ops floor? Because the ops floor was basically seen as, well, that's your job, and I appreciate the change and leading that.
Yeah. That's a great segue to officer promotions, and I'm only gonna spend about 30 seconds on this, and then 7 minutes, and then we're gonna get out of here. So how are officer promotions done? Recently, we just promoted some people into a UV promotion. One of them was Nuke, so congratulations to Nuke over here. He's gonna put on major here very shortly. Smack Davis got promoted UV to Lieutenant Colonel. Snack got promoted to Lieutenant Colonel. So there were no boards that were done. And the question arose like, well, a rank came available and, how are we doing this? And so on the officer side, 99 times out of 100, there will be no board. A rank becomes available, and I look at all of the officers, and as the commander, I say, this individual has leadership potential in this organization. I know everything they've done. I have access to all of their OPRs. I don't need to make them dress up in service dress and come in and answer a bunch of random questions in order for me to realize that they are ready for promotion or better for promotion over this guy. So officers and enlisted are handled differently in the promotion process. And so it will be a commander's assessment on who is going to get promoted on the officer side. All right? That is that. Any questions about that? Okay. All right, Zap board, Boozy, last minute input before we walked in here. Said, hey, we can't dress up Bigfoot, but what about this type of fun? What if we set up an area in this unit that was okay to zap? And so we don't have spurious zaps on the turnstiles and things like that. And so we can zap them with our zaps, but then it'll just be a whole board of two 25th ADS zaps, which wouldn't make a lot of sense. But when we bring in people for TDY or whatever, we tell them bring your zaps, and they can zap the area somewhere in the unit that is authorized for zapping. Does anybody know what does everybody know what zaps means? Okay, I got some. Like, what is he even talking about? Tasers. We walk around with tasers and we're just zapping people now. Stickers. So you get your patch. You get a patch and you can put up stickers. Weapons kind of has it up in the weapons section with patches, and that's pretty cool. But I think that we could also do something with zaps. So is that kind of what you were talking about, Lizzie?
I just figured somebody, I think Colonel Cooler took away I guess somebody asked about decorating Bigfoot, and they just made a command decision not to decorate it, for whatever reason. Figured, and then Major Johnson brought up the zap thing on the Facebook page.
Okay.
Figures,
We did zap a speed limit sign in Canada. I hope that's okay. Is that all right? Okay, good. Okay, yeah, the dressing up a Bigfoot thing, and I think what we're talking about, two different things. But I like where you're going with that, and let's do that.
Sir,
Dress up Bigfoot or something?
The zap, the dress up Bigfoot is not my decision to make.
Captain Yamada suggested part of a wall in the bogey dope.
I was gonna say the counter in the bogey dope,
Yeah,
where we put the coffee on.
that'd be cool.
Yeah, everybody that comes through seems to come to the bogey dope.
Zap the counter.
Get
Let's
the
see.
coffee.
Let's see if we can do that. It's not my property to zap, so I will ask the powers that be if we can zap that property. That'd be cool. Yeah. Yeah, farmer, we're zapping your bar. I'm just kidding. It's not farmer's property either. All right. It's actually JBLM's property, and we probably got to get permission to put stickers on it from JBLM. I know, right? Ridiculous. But let me just do the commanderly things I got to do, and we'll start zapping the bar. Yeah. Don't look at me incredulously. Because we can't zap the bar, but that's where I want to go. We could make a pretty thin piece of wood outline of the bar that lays on top of it. That
Plexiglass.
Plexiglass.
And then when it gets full, you can mount it on the wall and start the new. Oh, that's why we keep you around, dude. It's the hair and ideas like that. All right, cool. Next topic. All right, so Culp actually quoted General Goldfein in his question. Very impressive. And General Goldfein writes, "The most important thing we're doing is to develop and place in command inspirational leaders and task them in peacetime to give them the decision authority to be able to make risk calculation and decisions." And so he extrapolates, "This statement delegates decision authority down to the commander level as well as gives them the ability to take some risks as part of General Goldfein's Squadron Revitalization Initiative." Somebody's been reading. "How do you as the squadron commander interpret this, and how do you plan on using this authority and risk calculation to move our unit forward in an Air Force that is eliminating AFIs to make things simpler while also, in a sense, becoming more complex?"
There you go. You got 1 minute, boss.
All right, 1 minute. We're going to go over an hour. Sorry, everybody. So Colonel Humphrey, on his first day on the job, came to me and said, "Tub," because he's allowed to call me Tub, "Tub, it is your squadron. You run it as you see fit. You make the decisions that are resident in a squadron commander's authority." And I said, "I will." And he has not countered that whatsoever since the day that he took command and I took command. So there are some things I can't make decisions on, like zapping the bar, because it's not mine, right? I just can't make that decision. Or spending money. I don't have a checkbook as a squadron commander. But what I can do is I can go to the WADS commander who owns the checkbook, and I can argue tooth and nail that it's a great idea that we need to spend our money on this. He did not feel that way about sleep pods. So I lost that one. But I promise you guys, everything that's in my authority to make a decision, I owe you a decision. And that's one of my pet peeves as a leader, is when somebody refuses to make a decision. Okay? And I won't do that to you. So I don't know how many of you have come in my office and said, "Hey boss, I need you to make a decision." And I turn to the individual and I say, "I need you to make a decision." Because what I'm doing. I'll make every decision that's in my power to make and at my proper level of authority, but I need you to do the same. I need, that's the whole empowerment thing that we talk about in our flight plan. Okay, so if you can make a decision at your level, make it. Okay, I'm gonna use you as an example, you and Matt. You guys came to me about the JIC flight and how you came to me and you said, we wanna make a JIC flight. And then you were looking for guidance on how to organize it, right? And I said, guys, I don't care. You guys figure out how to organize it and who does what and things like that. And then you can have your JIC. And it's not, did we call it a flag?
No.
No, it's a JIC. You can have your JIC, right? And they did that. They went away and they came back and they had a fully fleshed out plan. I didn't change a word of it. And I said, that looks awesome. Let's do that. All right? So I am going to not just take the command decision-making authority that has been invested in me, but I'm gonna push it down to you guys even lower. And I expect you to push it down to the lowest level where that decision can be made, okay? So, that's that. Any questions about that? AFIs are going away. The Air Force, in my mind, under General Goldfein's leadership, is moving in the right direction. He is a fantastic leader, Chief Wright, fantastic leader. I think he's moving in the right direction. I appreciate everything he's doing, the power that he's given me as a squadron commander, the power Colonel Humphrey has given me as a squadron commander, and I promise that I will push that power down to you guys. Okay? Yep.
Major Davis asks, when's the next draft of the flight plan due out?
He is trying to publicly embarrass me, is what he is doing. It's already due. It's supposed to be done quarterly, and I'm overdue. But we had a meeting the other day. We figured out some waypoints that need to be added. Our workload just has not allowed us to draft up a new version. So I would like to. The only way to get things done around here is to set a suspense, right? So I'll have it out in 2 weeks. So 2 Fridays from now. Not next Friday, but the Friday after. Okay, we'll get the new version of the flight plan out. Okay? All right. Anybody have anything else they want to talk about? Okay, I'm gonna leave you with this. A little bit of, I don't know, now's not the time. I will leave you with this. I want to talk about giving people value in this organization. If there's somebody in this unit that doesn't feel valued, we have to fix that, and we have to fix that immediately, okay? Because the culture that we've created is safe, valued, or respected and valued, right? And that's what General Horn wants us to do. And I feel like there may be people in this unit that feel like they're searching for a place in the unit. And there's some people who have been in this unit for many, many years, and they're searching for a place in this unit. Okay, so we've got to get creative on finding ways to give people value. And if I could share very quickly, and also maybe dispel some rumors, I had a meeting with Chad Warren the other day, not Warren, Matt Warner the other day.
We're different.
Your names are very similar, very similar. Matt Warner the other day, and we figured out that that guy has a whole bunch of ID tech knowledge, right? He has a lot of book knowledge when it comes to ID techs, and yet for various reasons he's not an ID tech right now, and he found a lot of value in his ID knowledge, right? So what we want to do is we want to take that knowledge and actually create academics and give him an opportunity to teach ID procedures in a classroom environment, right? Because we've got IQT and MQT, and we've got a huge task load on our instructors. And to give one of those academic briefings for Jared Denton, it takes a lot of his time and a lot of his effort when he could be instructionally out on the floor teaching ID techs on the floor, right? So Matt's got a huge skill there, and we're going to take that skill and we're going to put it to use in the classroom for an IQT course, right? Because that guy can tell you every airspace, every waypoint, every corridor out there off of the West Coast. And I need that knowledge imparted on people, right? And just because he's not an IE tech anymore doesn't mean that that's not valuable to this organization. So that's what we're gonna do. Okay, so I need you guys coming up with ideas like that to say, this person, this is where this person brings value to this organization, and this is how we're gonna show them that they're valued to this organization. Okay, so get creative, get innovative, get out there and take care of each other, all right? Okay, Bigfoot!
Stop.
And if you don't have anything to do, leave for the day. As you were, thank you.